Yes, indeed. Welcome into another episode of Total Hockey Now here on the Total Hockey Now YouTube channel. That over there is my defensive partner for today at Fuzzy Chris 91. I am at Pucking Thoughts Adam Bernard. Do have a little bit of breaking news just to jump into. Not a major deal, but certainly worth mentioning. Josh Manson signs a 2-year extension. The Avalanche by a total of $3.95 million per season. It looks like there. So hey. Avalanche trying to lock up that back end. I mean, Manson's a solid second pairing guy now.
Yeah, listen, look at the nice little tidy little work of business there. Getting that, I mean, Colorado adding or keeping the defenseman that they have is probably good. Their cap situation is not fantastic, but like the salary cap is just it's made up. It's voodoo.
Yeah, it's like it's like what it's like. It's like a walk, don't walk sign. Like if it's a busy intersection, you're gonna respect it. But like if you get there and it doesn't look like anybody's driven by in about about a half hour, I'm gonna go against the light. It's fine. It's not a big deal. Same thing with the cap. Like it's there, but there are ways around it. Anyway, other thing news today: Matt Dumba getting traded to the Penguins there, and I believe a second round pick as well. And going back as a prospect to Dallas. So as you said before we joined the show, Pittsburgh just, really trying to not win some games next year.
Pittsburgh putting together one of the most uncompetitive lineups that we've seen out of that team in a minute, which is not surprising considering the last time they had a team that was so uncompetitive. They basically built a winning team for the better part of 15 years, right? So they added Crosby in that year where they really needed somebody to come in and save that franchise from Mario. So let's see if Dubas's plan to put together one of the worst hockey teams ever works out, because in the end they have a chance to get Gavin McKenna, which would be so poetic that just as like Crosby's aging and his career is coming to an end, they add another generational talent. Just listen, maybe lightning strikes a bottle twice for this team, but we'll see.
And you also mentioned the poetic part. I mean, he just committed to Penn State, so it would be an in-state prospect, about halfway between Pittsburgh and Philly, I believe, a little closer to Pittsburgh. The other thing I said is, maybe we've had it wrong about Buffalo all along. Maybe they've been setting up to have the best chance at a Gavin McKenna. Terry Pegula owns the Sabres. He's a big Penn State booster. I'm pretty sure the arena is named after him. So, maybe maybe hiring Lindy Ruff was a move done on purpose to put them in position. But Pittsburgh, at least, like you said, that would be a nice little handover from Crosby, because Crosby still got some, lead left in the pencil. So, it's not like he would just be there as a guy to, be a mentor. Like he would still contribute. And yeah, it would be. That's why when people keep talking about he might get traded, he wouldn't have signed that extension if he didn't want to be there anymore. You don't sign for 4 years if you don't want to be there. Like if you had signed a 1 or a 2 year deal, now maybe there's some, maybe he has a change of heart. He wants to leave the door open for that. I think he wants to finish as a Penguin. Maybe in that last year of the contract, maybe, like a Ray Bork kind of situation, but I don't think he's leaving.
He signed for 2 at 8.7, so he becomes a free agent the 2027-28. But again, even Sid will decide where he goes, when he goes, where he wants to go. It doesn't matter if he wants to be there and mentor the next wave of the next generational talent, then sure. Again, this is if everything works out as it should and he ends up there. The Buffalo Sabres deserve absolutely nothing of nice. They deserve to be the worst team, because anyways, even if he goes there, he's going to be there for 6-7 years, and then he'll be shipped off somewhere else and go win a Stanley Cup. So but this is going to be one of those years where teams that they know that they're bad are going to put together a lineup that is just absolutely horrific, and
especially late in the season.
Yeah, we're gonna look. You're going to see a lot of those kids coming out of the AHL and whatnot, and prospects just getting a shot to play, knowing very well that they won't be able to contribute at all, or they're going to get steamrolled most nights.
Basically, anybody whose AHL team is not thickly in a playoff race, where you don't want to hurt the chances of going all the way and winning down there, because that has its value too. If you have an AHL team that's bad, but has a couple of prospects that maybe they want to get a look at, those guys are getting a call up for sure. But that's stuff we could talk about down the line. Today we're going to do our first fantasy mockey of the season. Confirm that, we just had bad timing last week with the ESPN and their maintenance, but maybe the rankings will be properly updated and Alexander Georgiev will not be the 10th ranked goalie as we experienced in a quick run not too long ago. But then, we're going to talk some Rocket Richard odds, who's going to lead the league in scoring. It's simple as that. And then Jack Adams. And we'll try and do some odds every week here on Total Hockey Now and a mock draft every week. Nice and easy in the summer. Like kick back, a little bit of gambling, but mock there. So let's get the Rocket Richard odds up on the screen. As you can see right there, Leon Draisaitl, the odds on favorite at plus 320. These are from DraftKings. Austin Matthews plus 400, David Pastrnak plus 600, Kaprizov at plus 700, McDavid and William Nylander 12-1, and then we'll round out the left side there. Tage Thompson, Nate McKinnon at 16-1, Jack Hughes 30-1, also Braden Point 30-1, along with Ovechkin and Rantanen. Then you get into like a little bit of the longer shots. Sam Reinert 40-1, Jake Gensel 50-1, also Philip Forsberg there. Kyle Connor, Cole Caulfield, your guys at 75-1. Kucherov, initially I was surprised to see at 75-1, but I guess when you play with Jake Gensel, there's only so many goals to go around. And then Jason Robertson at 100-1, and there were 5 guys listed at 150-1. Didn't want to go all the way down, but you get a nice sampling there of who the odds makers think are going to lead the league in scoring. Certainly having Draisaitl as your odds-on favorite is not a bad way to go.
No, I mean, listen, Draisaitl has proven that he can lead the league in scoring, so I don't think it's shocking to see him open as the favorite here. It's, Edmonton's going to go out there and they're going to have to score goals to win hockey games. They're not getting any better. They probably they're going to be a playoff team because McDavid and Draisaitl are going to drag them there, but that's probably not where I would put my money. I do think there are 2 players here that are very interesting. One would be David Pastrnak, because the Boston Bruins are absolutely atrocious. They're not good. They're going to lose a lot of games. But there are no other high-end scoring talented players on that team. There's Pastrnak, and then there's whoever else is able-bodied to play. Pasternak's going to play a ton on the power play. He's going to get every chance. If you follow the kind of like they do in the NFL with game script, how that game's going to go, Boston's going to be trailing. So you're going to need Pastrnak to be out there quite a bit to try to, catch up from that deficit and see what they can make it. So that would be the first one. The second one is Kirill Kaprizov. If it wasn't for his injury, I think he could have probably flirted with it. He would have flirted for the Hart Trophy. But he is a prolific goal scorer. He can do it. The Minnesota Wild have surrounded him with some pretty good players. Yes, there's Matt Boldy. Yes, there's Joel Eriksson Ek. We'll see what happens with Rossi. But there's enough talent on that team where they can facilitate the puck around and elevate Kaprizov's game even higher, right? Sometimes people are afraid, one player will take away from the other in the same way we do with voting on the Hart between McDavid and Draisaitl. One could steal from the other. But I do believe that Kaprizov is a player who can score probably 50 goals. I don't know if he's going to get to 60, but at some I guess in the modern NHL, 55 is probably good. It's probably good enough to win you a scoring title. I don't think we see a 70 like Matthews was flirting with last time. I also don't think Austin Matthews, the loss of Mitch Marner is going to show. Whether you like him or not, he is a high-end puck distributor. He's a great passer. He facilitates the puck. You don't replace that with a young player, right? I get it. Listen, Leafs Twitter's been off the wagon here because they're talking about Michelli being an 85-point guy, and I'm hey, can we
pump the brakes?
Can we maybe get to 60 before we start penciling him in for 80? Slow down here, okay? So those to me are the first 2 that kind of stand out quite a bit, just because of the opportunities that they're going to get, the eliteness that comes from them. The others on the right side, they're longer shots, but I don't know if I would put hard-earned money on them just yet.
Well, I'll go to the right in a minute just to talk about the two guys you talked about. I completely agree on Pasternak because who else is the offense going to run through on the Bruins? He's got to be the guy. He's going to have to drag them to whatever victories they get at that point. So very well, he's a guy you can lean on. Kaprizov, he played 75 games 2 years ago, but last year missed half the year. Year before that, played 67 games. I'm not putting him in the Jack Hughes category yet, but maybe I want to see a 72 plus game season, because let's face it, games played does matter in this. You that is a factor here. Health, it matters. That's why, like, to me, Jack Hughes is off the board to me or not an option, I should say, until he proves he can really go through a full season and not miss significant amount of time there. For the same argument as Pasternak, Tage Thompson at 16-1. And listen, I understand Buffalo's going to stink, but same principle. Well, they have other guys that can score. You have Tuck there. But Thompson, I think maybe he has that huge season where I don't know if he leads the league in scoring, but he could flirt with it. You mentioned the loss of Marner. Maybe Nylander picks up a little bit of that slack at 12-1, looking at the left side there. But then looking at the right, like you said, like Ovechkin, he's not going to score the way he scored last year. That's not happening. So I doubt that. When I look at that there, Rantanen, Dallas tends to roll four lines, and not that he's not going to be a high presence and get a lot of minutes there, but there might be a little less opportunity there. And then, you look at same thing with Reinhart in Florida. Gensel and Kucherov, to me, kind of cancel each other out. Kyle Connor in Winnipeg, I don't know. Maybe that would be the one on that right side of the screen at 75-1 that you said I had to pick from that side, that's probably the one I would lean towards.
Yeah, Kyle Connor can score. I just think that the Jets are so well structured that they're not going to be trailing, right, very often, or they'll be playing a better structured game. Whereas I can't see that for Boston. They're going to have to go out there and try to outscore their opponents. Minnesota's defense, I'm not quite sure yet what we're going to get out of it. They also play in a very competitive division. So they're going to have, maybe some nights they're going to have to, wheel out their best players and kind of go for it. Thompson did score 47 in 22-23. So he has the capability. I just don't think he has the team around him to help him get to the next level. I don't consider Tage Thompson as a prolific goal scorer. I think he's a well-rounded player. He could probably put up 50 goals, probably put up 50 assists as well. Right?
To more of an Art Ross long shot.
Probably.
Yeah.
I just don't see him going out there and scoring as many goals as people think he will. The year after that, right? He had 29. It was a down year, but the Sabres are just terrible. He had 44 last year, which is pretty good. But I feel like he's in that 40 range. He's a 40 goal scorer, 40 to 45 most years. Unfortunately, it's not enough to win, the Rocket. You need more from there. So, it's not enough. And I guess for your point on Kaprizov, I would probably wait a little bit, see if those odds can dip a little bit, get a little bit better. Plus 700, like you said, is kind of off the rip, seems pretty good. But with Kirill's injury history and stuff like that, I think maybe he could drop a little bit as the year goes and at least try to get him at a 10-1 somewhere. At some point, I feel like it'll drop down, unless he goes on one of those just torrid starts like he did last season, in which case then you're kind of you're stuck. But those are the two there. Unfortunately, the right side, I don't know, man, not enough.
There's nobody in like I said, if Connor would be the guy if you had made me pick one there on the right side.
I would probably go with Sam Reinhart. And again, even that, Reinhardt's shooting percentage is elevated. He's clipping at close to over 16-17%. Last year he's flirting with 20% and probably finished with higher. The problem is the shot volume is just not there, right? Pasternak and Kaprizov, I'll throw Matthews in there as well. These are volume shooters. They fire the puck on goal. So many times. And it's not even as high as we're used to. Alex Ovechkin used to finish with 450 shots in a season, and we probably will not see that again. So the volume is just not enough for Reinhart. The same thing for Gensel. Maybe Forsberg, but I don't know how much the Preds are going to help him out there. Again, I see more Forsberg as a 40 plus goal scorer. So That's where I'm at today.
Just looking and listen, when you look at the Bruins, we keep talking about Pasternak. He's projected to skate on the line with Lindholm and Kiki. That's fine. But like, it falls off a cliff after that. The projected second line is Middlestat, Zaka, and Arvidsson, according to Daily Faceoff. So again, that's going to be their only source. I mean, when you look at Buffalo, again, I'm not expecting them to be in the playoff mix or anything like that. But when you do look at their top three lines, it's respectable. It'd be the best way I'd put it. Kulich, Benson, Thompson, your top line, Josh Norris, Jason Sucker, Alex Tuck's the second line, Ryan McLeod, Jack Quinn, Josh Stone, your third line. It's more respectable than it's been. So there's a little bit of a better cast, maybe around Thompson than he's had, but nonetheless, yeah, on the left side, Nylander was another one I'd look at. Looking over at the Jack Adams for Coach of the Year. And, one thing I found funny is that one of the longest shots was the reigning winner, Spencer Carberry, because let's face it, to win it 2 years in a row, you got to really do something as a coach to get that. And again, I think last year with Ovechkin's goal pursuit, there was just a lot of lightning in the bottle there. And to me, they're like the top regression candidate, the Capitals going into this year when we talk, divisions or win totals or things like that at a later date. So, looking at it, I was surprised to see Joel Quenneville as the odds-on favorite at plus 650 in Anaheim. I surprised, but I get it at the same time. I mean, he's obviously one of the best coaches in NHL history. Things that happened in Chicago aside, we're not going to get into that really. But just on the ice, yes. And Anaheim has made some movement towards trying to be a better team. Now you're bringing in a better coach. Anaheim has stunk for a while, so maybe this is the year where they're supposed to maybe take that. Hey, we don't make the playoffs, but we're still in the graphics on teams in the hunt when they show it on NHL Network going into the month of April. Maybe that's the goal for them this year, to take them in that direction. I don't think that's necessarily where I would look to spend money. I mean, if I was going to take a guy that was closer to a favorite, to me, it's Turizny in Utah, because the table is set for them to make the playoffs in year two. Like they're making improvements. They bring in JJ Peterka. They were a better team last year. They were in games. I know the West is tough. I know that Central Division especially is even tougher because you got to leapfrog somebody. But, if they make the playoffs, I think he's a guy that's got to get consideration. Dean Evison, 10-1 is the third best odds there. Columbus last year, I think they were riding the energy of an unfortunate situation. Let's see how that is in year two. I do think they are a better team, but they are in a prove it cat. It's also, you're going with Jet Greaves as your guy. So is he going to step up to the plate and handle it well, or is he a guy that's going to maybe need a little more developing at the NHL level? Just to run through the rest of them quickly here: Martin St. Louis 12-1, Todd McClellan 20-1, Mike Sullivan 22-1, getting that New York bump. Adam Foote at 22-1, Travis Green 25-1, Ryan Warsofsky 25-1, Ryan Huska 25-1. And then a few others at 25-1, Rick Tocchet, Jim Montgomery, Jeff Blashill, Marco Sturm, and then Patrick Waugh and Lindy Ruff at 30-1. How that's there. And then Sheldon Keefe at 40-1. And then also at 40-1, John Hines, Jim Hiller, Jared Bednar, Andrew Brunette, just to name a few there. So there we go. What are your first impressions when you look at the Coach of the Year award?
Absolutely just mind-boggling that Joel Quenneville is considered the favorite on a team that is not going to make the playoffs. Like the Anaheim Ducks are absolutely miserable. This is a young team. They're going to get better. I don't think Joel Quenneville is going to move the needle one way or another. So clearly that we can forget. Andre Tourigny, I guess, is a pick. I would the problem with the Mammoth is they're not necessarily terrible. They just they're right there. They're getting it. So Tourigny would have to put up, or I feel like the Mammoth would have to win a division spot, right, to get the recognition. Dean Evanson, I think, is absolutely fine there at 10-1. Columbus, like you said, they were right there. Nobody expected them last year. They were really, really close. I think if they take a step, he can be in there. Marty St. Louis, same thing. Teams are taking steps. He's getting close. Three of them really jump out here. Ryan Huska being one. The Calgary Flames are uneventful, but in the division that they're in, considering how many teams stink, they could get there. Their goaltending is good. They have Dustin Wolf. He's going to be capable. Their defense is not terrible. It's going to be a question of where do they find offense, right? Who's going to put the puck in the net? And maybe this is a case where Wolf helps Huska and Huska helps Wolf kind of thing. Jim Montgomery at 25-1, like he went over to St. Louis and they were good
Instantly better.
instantly. So I think that he can take that team, turn them into something good. Again, they're not a bad team. St. Louis is just uneventful. We'll see if players like Jordan Kyrou continue to stick around. They have lost a couple of pieces, but I mean, 25-1 is certainly, is far behind guys like Todd McLean. Like, where is Detroit going? Where? And Adam Foote, like, how is this a thing?
I guess that's because if they do turn things around and they do lead them to the playoffs, maybe, that carries weight. Taking a team that either we all thought was a stink or just be sub of, just below mediocre and getting them to the playoffs, that carries weight. I mean, that was Spencer Carberry last year. I mean, everybody knew he was going to be a good coach. We didn't think he was going to have the Capitals winning the conference.
You're right.
So that carries weight more than, let's say, a Paul Maurice, who's not even here. Like, okay, let's say Florida has, I don't even want to say like an historic season like the Bruins of a couple of years ago, but just something approaching that. We're like, okay, I know they have a good team, but like to keep this team competitive and at the top of the league year after year means something. That doesn't, in the preseason odds board here, it means nothing. So that just goes to show you that being on a mid or bad team and having them be sniffing the playoffs or being close. I mean, if you look at that 25-1 group right there, what are the Sharks, Flames, Flyers, Bruins all have in common? Like they're all like, teams that nobody's really expecting much out of. Montgomery, I don't know how the Blues get lumped into there. But because I mean, we all watched that series against the Jets last year. They could have won that series. That series could have very easily gone the other way. So,
right. And the other one I would have a little bit of sprinkle here, like Jared Bednar is like Colorado. I get that they're good, and it's hard to like vote for guys who are on a really good team. Like I get that, but if Colorado, let's say they win their division and they flirt with like conference, like best team in their conference in the West, like I don't understand how you can't at least put his name in that conversation. So like 40-1 is disrespect. I would think it's disrespectful at the 25-1, but I could understand why. But him being behind guys like Patrick Waugh, Lindy Ruff, and Sheldon Keefe is absolutely criminal, because like that roster has gone through some stuff, and they dealt with their injuries, and they revamped that team a lot. And again, they're in a really tough division.
yes.
So like that, to me, I feel like there's a little bit in there, and it's how you structure these teams, and it's how you play, and the way that, Bednar gets the most out of his best players. Like he runs McKinnon out there 24 minutes a night, but that's what works for them. And, all the changes that come with it, same thing. That's what works with them. So I expect Bednar's odds to improve as the year progresses. So I think 40-1 is the best you're going to get him at to start, because I don't see Colorado being miserable.
And like you said, the division factor is important. You got Dallas, who's improved with the addition of Rantanen. I know they're making some changes, other changes in the lineup, but the fact is they got Rantanen for a full season. Winnipeg, right there, obviously one of the top teams in the league last year. We talk about Utah being better, towards the bottom of that division, but they're still a better team. St. Louis being a tough team there. Listen, is Nashville going to be as bad as last year? I would like to think that maybe last year's issue, a team that everybody was jumping all over to go to the playoffs, maybe it was just a chemistry issue, although, we'll see. I mean, how they shake things out this year. Maybe it's a better year for Saros, but the blue line to me is still lacking there. It's still there's no easy outs in that division. Like in Chicago at some point, like maybe Bedard has gets back to, more like year one format under a new coach. They're trying to like maybe, I don't know, but it's one of the toughest divisions there, to your point about Bednar. So if he wins that division, or if they take home the President's Trophy, then yeah, I think there has to be serious consideration there.
You basically have to win. If you're a coach on a good team, you basically have to win the President's Trophy. Like you have, that's like, it's a high bar, but that's the bar that you need to get to. Because if like you said, any of these other coaches on like these mid hockey teams, that's like one of them could make the playoffs and one of them could flirt, and then you you lose it. So it's going to take one of those teams to win their conference, go abs, kind of like the Winnipeg Jets did. Just go, if they could have kept their momentum going all year, which again is extremely hard, then maybe it doesn't, maybe it doesn't go to Carberry. But so far, I don't know. There's a lot of guys on that left side that I don't enjoy.
Yeah, and again, it's a lot of coaches on mid or bad teams that are, if they go to the playoffs, that's going to be the guy that takes it home pretty much. If you look in the chat, I just dropped the link to the mock draft coming up here in about 6 minutes. ESPN doesn't have a ton of rooms devoted to it. Usually they have like beginner, pro, expert. There was no expert 12 team available for the time slot that was going to work here in a few minutes. So nonetheless, we're just going to do a quote unquote beginner one, but we consider ourselves experts here. I am in the 11th spot there. Not sure where Chris is going to be yet when he gets in the room. There he is at number 8. Please, if you're watching along, feel free to join in. Use that link. Go to right. Listen, we understand the ESPN fantasy platform is not great. That's all we got available to us for fantasy hockey mock drafts at this stage of the summer. Once August hits, I believe fantasy hockey will be available on Yahoo. That's when we switch over to that. So, and the rankings on ESPN, even though they have been updated after the bulk of the free agency period is now behind us, they are still ESPN rankings, and to me are not as true as Yahoo. Also, it's more of a forward, defense, goalie versus wing center. So you take what you can get here. It's more about overall positioning there. But as we have a couple of minutes here before that draft kicks off, any final thoughts on anybody you're not seeing on the board here that you're like, oh, that should be a guy you could? Because obviously it's a long shot at that point if you're not seeing him on the board.
Paul Maurice and Spencer Carberry, not even an honorable mention either one. Like, Jesus, I get that it's hard to win it back to back. I couldn't tell you if a coach has won it back to back. My belief is no. Like there's no way, right? There can't be a scenario where a coach won it back to back. So, like that probably takes Carberry out of the running because like what more could he have done, right? That's just it doesn't.
So I'm going through the list here to see if there was any incident of a coach winning twice in a row, two consecutively. And there are guys that won in clusters, like like a Pat Burns or like a Scotty Bowman. But yeah, looking at Pat Burns, another one, Pat Quinn, Pat Burns, Jacques Demers for the Red Wings in 87 and 88 was the last time a coach won back to back. Jack Adams, and since they've been giving out the award, that's the only time it has ever happened. So that's how rare it is.
So it's not. Sorry, Spencer, you're not. Don't put that in your next contract. Having to win it back to back gets you a nice little payday because it's not happening.
The one name I'll throw out, and he's on the left side, but Mike Sullivan, like I mentioned at the beginning, gets the New York Rangers bump. I mean, you get a bump in New York. It's just how it is. You don't have to like it, but if you do something in New York, it's made to be a bigger deal than somewhere else. Sorry, that's just how it goes. The Rangers are a team. Last year at points looked like the worst team in the league because of everything that was going on. New voice in the locker room, respected voice, has won multiple cups, was a former assistant with the Rangers under Tortorella, so he knows what it's like to deal with the New York media there. If the Rangers get back to the playoffs or even win the division, that's not a bad one either there, especially if they have a good season and everything's hunky-dory back at MSG again. So that would be another one I would consider.
Even if he won, like, I get if he wins the division, fine. But even at that, like, no disrespect to the Metropolitan Division, but like, you have the Hurricanes, you have the Rangers, the Devils if they're healthy, and then everybody else. That's it. That's it. And if any of those teams, right? If any of the, like, if Rick Tocchet takes the Flyers to a playoff spot, he gets it. If Dean Evanson takes the Columbus Blue Jackets to a playoff spot, he gets it. So, like Sullivan would have to do the impossible. He would literally have to do. They have to win again. They have to win a President's. They have to win a President's Trophy.
Fair enough.
And I don't see them as better than. I mean, they're not better than Florida. They're not better than the Leafs. They're not better than a whole bunch of teams. So, like, it's really, really hard. And at least for me, and you can tell me if I'm off, but like, I expect the Rangers to be good. You know what I mean? So, like, getting to the playoffs or finishing high, I'm like, yeah, look at your payroll. I expect you to be there. Yeah.
considering the NHL playoff format as it is, so you're going to get 3 teams out of the Metro. And to me, that's why if they win the division, if they leapfrog Carolina and we'll say Jersey with a healthy Jack Hughes, that to me means something. Maybe it doesn't mean it's not the same as leapfrogging the Panthers in the Atlantic Division, or maybe the Golden Knights out in the Pacific, or pick one of those top 3 teams in the Central. But it means something. Now, what my expectation of them is here, Pittsburgh's not trying to compete. We know that. Islanders also not trying to compete. I think they've gone into more of that developmental window. Philly, I think, is kind of in a similar boat to Anaheim, where they're trying to progress and trend into that right direction, but they're not there yet. They're not playoff ready yet. So that's 3 teams down right there. Yes, Columbus, I think, they're going to hang around. That's going to be the team that the Rangers, I think, will have to worry about more than anybody else. And then, that's, like we said, Carolina, New Jersey, Rangers, no Islanders, no Penguins, and then, the Capitals. So I think there might be some regression with the Capitals this year, unless Ovechkin's going to have that pace again. So, I mean, that's, to me, where I expect them to land is, 3rd place would be acceptable, or 4th place and a wild card spot. Like, to me, that's the minimum for what but, I mean, you look at the Atlantic Division, when you look at the competition for the wild card spots, Florida's getting in. Say what you want about Toronto. They're still a playoff team. I'm not taking that away from them. Tampa Bay still a playoff team, even if they're starting to decline. Not taking that away from them. The Canadians are going to be there. So that's it. We know Boston's not going to be there. We know Buffalo's not going to be there. So there's going to be some competition for that wild card.
We'll find out what Detroit is again this year. Which is a disappointment.
Exactly. That's the thing. Until they take that step, I just can't see. I'm not going to pick them to do anything of significance. Just not going to happen.
It was very telling that I think it was Elliot Freeman who had said it, how Ehlers didn't even take a call with Detroit, because Eisman was saying they had things that they wanted to do and it just didn't come to fruition, right? They were in on Victor Arvidsson, just didn't work. I think they were in on somebody else, didn't work. And then they wanted to be in on Nick Ehlers, and Ehlers hey man, I'm not even going to sit down and talk to you. And I we say a lot of negative things about Carolina and players not wanting to be there. We've seen Jake Gensel be hey, here for, short time and then go somewhere else. Mikko Rantanen was there for an extra short time. He didn't want to be there. But, Nick Ehlers still said, hey, he wasn't going to go back to Winnipeg. You could see that he was trying not to be mean, but he just wasn't used correctly. He got paid, but he was not going back there to play 14 minutes a night. He's going to go into a good Rob Brendamore system. He's going to play consistently in that top 6. But I always find it very telling when players just look at a team and go, no, because it means that no matter what, you don't want to be there. That's what it means to me. When you're a bad team and even money can't talk, how much better is it to live in, in Carolina than it is in Detroit? How much better?
I mean, well, it's not necessarily the living difference, although I can't speak to either. But I will say Carolina is a team that's expected to win the Metropolitan. And if there was a threat to the Panthers in the East, that's a team you'd have to throw into that conversation where, we just talked about with Detroit, I don't put them in the wild card mix. They're closer to the Bruins and the Sabres than they are to the Senators or a team like that. That was another team we didn't mention that made the playoffs last year. So, the East is back to finishing in the top 3 being important, whereas the last 2 years in the Metropolitan Division, it seemed like nobody could have that 3rd spot, and it didn't matter. So here we go. Draft counting down here in 3, 2, 1. And look, I remember to mute it. It's going to be a good draft.
I was looking at it. I don't want to say anything, but.
And yeah, it's just the 2 of us in here, so we'll slow it down when we get on the clock. But there goes Matthews 1st overall, Hellebuck 2nd, McKinnon 3rd, McDavid all the way down the 4th, McCarr 5th. Brady Tkachuk 6th, David Pasternak 7th. As Chris comes on the clock here, he's got 16 seconds to go. I was going to say the Nikolai Ehlers, where he goes in drafts, that's definitely a guy to keep an eye on. And listen, mock drafts data is very incomplete at this point because only degenerates like us are either conducting it, or if you watching it, you are also a degenerate. Sorry, that's just how it is. I'm on the clock here. I like to be close to the turn, but not on the turn. I mean, listen, I'll take Nikita Kucherov at 11th overall in a 12-teamer. Let the team go back-to-back there. So Chris takes Leon Draisaitl, certainly not a hard pick to make it 8. Philip Forsberg at 9. Matthew Tkachuk at 10. I take Kucherov at 11. Ottinger and Vasilevsky. This is also the thing. The ESPN, mock computers don't really necessarily do a good job. Nobody's taking goalies back to back there. I'm going to grab Willie Nylander, as he's going to be relied on to score even more this year. So turning around here with Kucherov and Nylander as my cornerstone forward. Certainly happy with that. Kyle Connor goes after him in round 2, pick 3. Artemi Panarin, round 2, pick 4. I can't believe that contract's coming to a close here. It's been quite a long time.
That's true. He's been around forever. Absolutely wild that they have like Macklin Celebrini right up there as well. Cole Caulfield as well. I appreciate the respect, but we can't get those players anymore at a discount.
And yeah, that's the thing. Like, the ESPN rankings, even after the fact that it's early in the mocking season, the rankings are going to be all out of whack, but ESPN's rankings are always out of whack. Whereas I feel like Yahoo, the first draft, usually come in with close to a decent place to start there. All right. So Chris on the clock here. Let's recap some of the picks made. After Chris took, let's see here. So after Panarin, Kaprizov went to Chris, then Celebrini, round 2, pick 6, Shesterkin, round 2, pick 7, Caulfield, Ovechkin, Gustafsson, Jack Hughes, Mikko Rantanen, Jack Eichel, Roman Josi, Sergei Bobrovsky, Steven Stamkos, Dustin Wolf, Jake Gensel, Mackenzie Weegar, and then with round 3, pick 8, Rasmus Dahlin goes, Aiden Hill team, round 3, pick 9, and Tim Stutzel, round 3, pick 10. Yes, I have to look at defense here. As we know, those things tend to go. Listen, Evan Bouchard's still very much a part of a very potent Oilers power play. I'm not going to really overlook it here. I know Quinn Hughes is available too, but in a league where goals are going to matter more, I'm going to take a guy like Bouchard as I'm milking the clock here to drag this out a little bit. So then Kirill Marchenko goes out the last pick of the 3rd round, Braden Point, first pick, round 4. And, I'm going to look at goalies now because there's been a run on them already. This was a guy that I was very happy with last year. Darcy Kemper, no reason to think I don't think he'll play as well as last year, but I think he'll still have a very good season. I'll take my first goalie, round 4, pick 2. There goes Adrian Kempe, pick 3. JT Miller, pick 4. Chris back on the clock now. So again, part of us doing this is to help make the rankings better. So, there's going to be guys we miss because ESPN's rankings are wonky. Like, oh, how did this guy go in this round? That's just how it is. And Chris can get an idea of who I'm taking. I have to share it this way. So he does get a little bit of, we're far enough away that we shouldn't matter each other. But let's see what he does here as he milks the clock down 5, 4. He takes Quinn Hughes. So, listen, that's the pick there. I thought about pulling the trigger on Hughes there, but I wanted to at least get one goalie locked up in this format here.
It was between him and Tage Thompson who went, and then my finger was also on Zach Werenski, who is also not there. So some choices had to be made here.
So after Hughes, it's Sam Reiner, Jason Robertson, Tage Thompson, all guys that were on the Rocket Richard odds list we talked about earlier. Sidney Crosby, John Tavares, Marty Netchis, Zach Werenski, there he goes to close out round 4. Elias Pettersson opens up round 5. Certainly a much lower ADP for him this year than was last year when he was being floated around the top 12. Victor Hedman, Nazem Kadri, Clayton Keller, Matt Coronado, that's a pick. Wyatt Johnston, Matt Boldy, good value there, round 5, pick 7. Mitch Marner, you could talk about that pick there with Dylan Gunther and Vinny Trocheck going after that.
Listen, Marner is going to Vegas, and he's not there to just hang out and, sip the soup. He's there to do something. So, and he's playing with Jack Eichel. Vegas's power play wasn't really elite, so I think he can probably help their power play out, and I'm very big on that. I'm okay with it.
So Scheifele got overlooked and went closer to like rounds 12 last year. I'm grabbing him in round 5. I think he'll have another strong season. And then after him, Adam Fantilli and Dylan Larkin goes. I've got 10 seconds left on the clock here. Nico Hischier was the straw that stirred the drink for the Devils throughout the season. I'll certainly grab him with the second pick around 6, even though defenseman is probably, I'm going to have to start going with a few of those consecutively here since I just took only Evan Bouchard so far. There goes Dylan Holloway, a guy who was probably picked up off the waiver wire in most leagues going in round 6 because he was a vital part of that. Not that the Blues have a potent offense, but he's certainly a guy that carries whatever's there. Chris on the clock here as he milks things down after I took Hischier, DeBrincat, and Dylan Holloway. He takes Logan Thompson. He gets his first goaltender. Brandon Hagel, Jesper Bratt, Jordan Kyrou, Moritz Seider, Pavel Dorofiev, Dorofeev, excuse me, Bo Horvat, Anthony Stolars, and there goes Connor Bedard. First pick around 7. I think that's an appropriate place for him. Mika Zibanejad, Sebastian Aho, Seth Jarvis, Joey Decord. Again, the auto pick sometimes just not doing it. Nick Suzuki and Matvey Mishkov, probably 2 guys that were being considered there by Chris. Maybe they'll go off the board before he makes his 7th round pick at 80th overall.
I'm gonna add another defenseman. He seems to be falling down the board, and I'm okay with that.
Oh, I know who you're taking. Yeah. You know, I was
Adam Fox is not dead. He played with a bunch of plugs.
And listen, in a league where hits matter, a guy like I might take a guy. You know what? This is a guy you're high on, and it's not the guy you're thinking, but you've talked about him a fair amount. Thomas Harley. In Dallas this year, I think as a second defenseman, I'm fine with that. Brock Nelson and John Carlson going back to back there. Listen, I could do one of 2 things here, and I could either fire a shot or I could take the guy I want to take. I'm going to fire a shot. Lane Hudson. I was thinking about Sergachev. He was my defensive, guy that I wanted at around this point in the draft. Late single-digit rounds here as we're on round 8, but 60 assists. That's tough to ignore. I'll give up the 6 goals for a guy that breaks 60 assists in his rookie season.
I need. I'm gonna solidify my goaltending position because there's not much quality left. So I'm gonna take Blackwood here.
Okay. There goes. So after I take Hudson, you got Lucas Raymond, Frank Vitrano. Chris takes Mackenzie Blackwood, Logan Cooley, Joel Eriksson-Ek, Kevin Fiala going round 8, pick 8. That's some good value there. Travis Konechny, Timo Meyer. Jackson Lacombe, maybe a little high for him, although increased expectations for him. Jack Sanderson to close out round 8. Jordan Binnington owned up round 9. Josh Morrissey, Ricard Raquel, definitely a stretch there, round 9, pick 3. Alex Laferriere, a guy that flew under the radar a little bit last year, but produced for the Kings. There goes Rupe Hintz. Sasha Barkov going round 9, pick 6, some good value there. And there goes my guy Sergachev, round 9, pick 7, before Chris on the board here. So he decides who he's going to get. And he takes Matthew Knies.
Spot opened up on Toronto's power play. That's who I expect we'll see most of the time. At least I hope so.
So for me here, I got to get my second goaltender spot locked up, and maybe this guy would be gone if Ant Rivera, 86, was here today, but Jacob Markstrom, got to make sure I get my second goalie before I maybe get sniped. Luckily, I would not have. It looks like Chris Kreider, Drake Batherson go on the turn there. I got to look back at the available forwards here as you get to see what I'm going to do here. And you see like top goal scoring guys available. There's Thomas Hertl, certainly worth a consideration as I scroll down here. Jake DeBrusk, JJ Peterka, increased by expectations, but I know he's going to be on a good team, and that top line is going to get a lot of attention. That should open up some things for Hertl, so I'll take him with the second pick of the 10th round as Samuel Montembeau goes with the 3rd pick, and then Jonathan Marchessault, the 4th pick of the 10th round here. Again, format here: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, we got not. What do we got? 10 forwards, 5D, 2 goalies, and some bench spots.
Everybody's forgetting how really, really good he was. I'm going to take Noah Dobson here.
Again, I want to be, the same way I want a share of what's going on in Edmonton with the upgrade that Vegas has made, adding Marner in there. I want to have a share in their top 6 and on their power play somehow as well. So there we go. After Chris makes the pick there for Noah Dobson, UC Saros, JJ Peterka, Brandon Montour, Anders Lee, Mike Matheson, Cutter Gauthier, Dylan Strome, Marco Casper, Thatcher Demko, Will Cooley, Rasmus Anderson, Tom Wilson, Freddie Anderson, and Brian Rust. That takes us up to round 11, pick 7, with Chris back on the clock here.
He's not coming around again. Newly signed Nikolai Ehlers.
And that's the guy we talked about leading into the draft, and that's, I think, a really strong pick there, especially around 11. His ADP is going to go up very much from that spot as more mock drafts happen there. Looking at see here. Listen, this is a guy that, I talked about Lane Hudson getting assists. Robert Thomas, also as the top center in St. Louis, also racks up assists there. We expect a better team out of them. So I'll take another forward there. Then Tyler Toffoli, Mason Marchment go. I'm looking to get another defenseman here. Let's take a look at the guys available to me. Again, power play points matter. I'm looking at a Luke Hughes here, but I feel like a Seth Jones playing on the Florida Panthers now. That's too good to ignore. The guy who's ADP certainly going up. I'll take a chance on him Round 12, pick 2. Chris Letang goes after that, and Owen Tippett with Chris back on the clock here.
Speaking of players who can do something, I mean, he's still on a very good team. If he doesn't get in trouble, we should be just fine. Valeri Nichushkin.
A vital part of that Colorado top 6 when he's a part of the roster, and they have a better roster this year. One of the things we've talked about in past seasons with the Avalanche is they have lack of depth. That's not the case with them anymore, either with their forward unit or their blue line. So let's see here. After Nichushkin, Brock Faber, Charlie McAvoy, Gabe Velarde, Brad Marchand going around 12, pick 9. Andrei Svechnikov certainly is fallen down. His ADP should come back up at some point. Round 12, pick 10. Marco Rossi and Jacob Chikrin round out round 12. Neil Pionk, Ryan O'Reilly, Mason McTavish, Darnell Nurse, Brock Besser, round 3. That's a guy that you could get a lot of value out of if he could light the lamp. Dmitry Voronikov with the Blue Jackets. And there goes Stu Skinner, round 13, pick 7. And Alex Lafreniere. Listen, low risk.
Remember the first overall pick?
That guy? Yeah, the guy that hasn't delivered.
Is like maybe there's some extra playing time for him with Mike Sullivan around on that top power play unit. He did get a little bit, but not enough.
Well, let's see here. I got to keep looking at forwards here. But again, when I get thrown off when I don't have center, left wing, right wing, but that's just how it goes. Out at this point on the clock, give me Andrei Kopitar. He's still relied on to produce in the Kings, even though he's starting to get a little long in the tooth. No production drop or very minimal. And the Kings still a good team out west. There goes Geno Malkin and Dougie Hamilton after that. I could go forward. I could go defense here. Maybe I'd look at the goaltending spot and try and lock up a quality third guy. Listen, I know you're not really that high on the Ducks this year, but they are going to – this is Lucas Dostal's crease to lose. Mrazek is just there as an insurance policy to play every 5th night. He's going to get his opportunities, but no, I'm going to take Jeremy Swayman instead. I talked him up, but at this point, I feel like as bad as the Bruins are going to be, Swayman's going to play a ton. They're paying him a lot. He's their guy. As a third goalie, fine. I pulled it, and I'm sure that happens too when you're doing drafts. You're like, I'm on this guy, I'm talking about this guy, and here we go. Chris on the clock here after Swayman, Miro Heiskanen, Connor Garland goes. Heiskanen, round 14, pick 3. Certainly a strong pick there, a guy that gets overlooked.
This pick. What we're gonna do?
Morgan Riley, but round 14, pick 5. What are you going to do?
At least, listen, I don't think the Leafs are going to go to a 5-man, like a 5-forward power play. The Leafs just have nobody on the back end that's going to contribute any. I also lied because I said I wasn't going to take a Toronto Maple Leaf player. I did, but that is, that's Morgan Riley's fault for being there.
All right, so let's recap the picks since Chris's pick of Morgan Riley. Fabian Zetterlund just signed with Ottawa. Jonathan Huberdeau, Trevor Zegras in Philly there. Charlie Lindgren, Gustav Forsling, Evander Kane, and Tyson Forrester to round out round 14. Round 15, Zach Bolduc. Matthew Olivier looking for those hits and those penalty minutes there. Barrett Hayton. Lucas Dostal goes around 15, pick 4. Jake DeBrusk, Jake Wallman, William Eklund, Morgan Geekie, the guy there. He's going to be on the Bruins top line. I assume he's going to just get some points from skating with Pasternak, Hannafin, and Linus Ullmark. That's probably the guy I should have taken instead of Swayman there. But again, these rankings are a little wonky. First draft of the year.
That's probably.
I could go one of two ways here. No, I won't do that yet. All right. I can make a better pick here, but Ryan Donato, he's going to skate with Bedard, it looks like. Maybe for the same reason you took Geekie. That's why I take Donato there. A little bit of a reach, but the clock was running out on me. Oh, there goes Will Smith. So William Eklund and Will Smith. I got no share of the Sharks right now. That bothers me.
Damn.
And I'm back on the clock here. I know we don't value plus minus as a stat, but I don't want to totally punt on it. And Devin Taves skating with Cale Makar certainly helps with that. And as a 5th defenseman, I'll take that.
I need a backup goalie or at least somebody on the roster to help out. And I guess I'm going to believe in the Columbus Blue Jackets a little bit here, but I don't think anybody's taking Jet Greaves' spot.
I mean, if they're going to take a step forward this year, he's going to have a big part of that. So let's see. After I took Taves, Matt Duchene, Dylan Cousins, Chris takes Jet Greaves, Kyle Palmieri, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Drew Doughty, Brady Shea, Nick Schmaltz, Elias Lindholm, Eli Tolvanen wraps up round 16. Keandre Miller, maybe a little bit of an overlooked defenseman there. Kicks off round 17. Sean Dursey, Anthony Cirelli, Kent Johnson, Jacob Truber, Braden Shen, and Tristan Jarry. Now Chris back on the clock here. I can't imagine he loves what he's got available to him, but
Do you think this is the year for Cole Perfetti, or is he just going to get the Ehlers treatment?
I would think if Winnipeg's going to take that step, they got to let him. They got to let him cook. No,
they better. They better.
All right, so here we go. So Perfetti, Barzal, Caden Gould goes. I'll take a shot. I want a piece of the Avalanche here. Give me Arturi Lehkonen. He finds himself, even if he's not in the top 6, he's the first guy to get bumped up if somebody gets hurt. Elvis Merzlikins, Adam Larson go after I go. So I've got, let's see here. I've got a utility, a few bench spots to go here. I mean, I could take a Mark Stone. I know I don't want to go. I could look at one of the caps here. You know what? I'm going to take a Connor McMichael here. I think that's a good value pick in round 18. This is where you take shots. Blake Coleman, Brent Clark, certainly a strong defensive pick there. As at some point the torch will have to be passed from Drew Doughty to Brent Clark. Could be this year.
It's not that many. It's not that many players I'm high on right off the rip here. The computers kept me honest. I'm gonna go because I had him queued up here. I'm gonna go with the future Rookie of the Year winner. To add some extra little spice to my lineup.
Round 18. There goes Buchnevich. I think that's a little late for him. In a format where it's forward defense, I don't love having a ton of guys on the same team. It's a little different when there's different positions to break it up. But there, let's see. So Chris is going to be back on the clock in a second there. So he takes Demidov, then goes Nugent Hopkins. It's a little late for him. Slafkovsky goes 2 picks after Chris goes. Bjorkstrand, Simone Edvinson, Pavel Buchnevich, Warren Fogle, Matt Zuccarello, Logan Stankoven, Lawson Krause, Brent Burns, John Gibson. Good late round goalie pick there. He's going to get the bulk of the workload as long as his health allows it. Jared Spurgeon, Shea Theodore, Patrick Crane, round 19, pick 7. Chris takes Thomas Shabbat, then Matthias Ekholm and Joseph Wall, and I'm back on the clock. All right, I'm going to take. Listen,
do it.
Matthias Michelli. I mean, listen, I don't think he's going to have 85 points. I even think 70 is a little lofty, but like you said, at a 60, 65 point performance, it's not out of the realm of possibility. As Alex Vlasic goes, Troy Terry goes, and I'm back on the clock. I want to get my last defenseman squared up here. I mean, Luke Hughes still being available here. I think I got to take him as my bench defenseman. Sure. Round 20, pick 2. Jason Zucker, Karel Vejmelka goes. I've got 2 rounds here. We're in round 20 of 22. A couple of spots left to fill on our bench, whether people go with goalies, defensemen. Quentin Byfield, I was thinking about him. I knew he probably wouldn't get back to me, but I thought maybe I could wait on him. But he was a guy I was considering too.
Hanging around a little too long.
Great pick.
Couldn't just let him keep there.
There goes Sean Monahan, Leo Carlson, close round 20 and open round 21. Jamie Benn, Jake Middleton, Jake Neighbors, good pick there, round 21, pick 4. Kale Backlund, Cam York, Teuvo Teravainen. Chris back on the clock here.
I don't have a player queued up, but I mean,
there's really no goalies worth taking at this point. Any goalie worth rostering is off.
I'm going to take a stab here. I mean, he's going to get to play. Mikael Granlund's not going to Anaheim to say hi.
And he gets well-rounded minutes. He could play power play. He could play penalty kill. So that's I like that as a penultimate pick there. Then goes Shane Wright, Tyler Bertuzzi. I'm back on the clock. And this is where you got to scroll down and maybe find that, improperly ranked guy. Is this a spot where okay, Taylor Hall maybe gets leaned a little bit more on? I don't know. You know what? I thought about this guy a couple of times. Mark Stone. Why not? Piece of Vegas again. I don't love to have too many guys in the top there, but I'll have Hurdle and I'll have Stone. There goes Bunting and Romanov, and I'm back on the clock here. And I think I want to take a second. I have bench defenseman, so I'm just going to kind of scroll through. Cam Fowler, full season in St. Louis. You got Ivan Provorov staying there in Colorado. Let's see who gets power play points. Who's left? Lowry, Dunn, Fuck Ekblad. I don't want 2 Panthers. 3, 2. I'm gonna have to pick somebody real quick here. I'm gonna take Fowler. I end up with Claude Giroux on the auto pick. There goes Vince Dunn and Justin Falk after me. So all right, whatever. I don't mind Claude Giroux.
Oh, I guess I'll take a stab here at a Chicago player. Like they can't be miserable. Well, they will be, but let's go with Nazar.
I like that pick and that's the thing I should have thought more about. I could have taken like a Missa there, having my share of the Sharks. And to close out the draft, Nazar, Provorov, Beniers, Hartman, Carlson, Lindell, Taylor Hall, and Kochetkov. Not a bad way to go with Carolina. All right, so let's take a look at the board here and let it, it's not going to let me maximize it as more than this because, again, ESPN, stink. Can I like collapse this window? No, I can't. All right, so let's take a look at Chris's team first here on the left. And then we got Leon Draisaitl, Kirill Kaprizov, Mitch Marner, Matthew Nyes, Nikolai Ehlers, Valerie Nichushkin, Alex Lafreniere, Morgan Geekie, Cole Perfetti rounds out his starting forwards, Rasmus Dahlin, Quinn Hughes, Adam Fox, Noah Dobson, Morgan Riley. That's a strong defensive core there. Demidov is the utility. His goaltenders are Logan Thompson, Mackenzie Blackwood, Jet Greaves on his bench, Thomas Shabbat, Quentin Byfield, Mikhail Granlund, Frank Nazar. It's pretty good first mock of the season for you.
Yeah, the bench is not fantastic. That defense core again, though, very, very good. I hate that the computer is caught on because Cale Makar went 5th, and I feel like, which is exactly where I probably have to be to take him. It would probably be another reach there, but no, it was. Listen, anytime you can get Draisaitl, Kaprizov, right, like Marner, these are guys who can. Like they're going to rack up their points, right? That's what you're looking for. You're looking for guys who can rack up points, score goals. Matthew Nyes is going to get a power play opportunity now that Mitch Marner is not there. He's going to skate with Matthews 5-on-5. I expect him to get as many opportunities as possible. Nikolai Ehlers, again, another good spot for him to be. Listen, Dahlin, Quinn Hughes, Adam Fox. I mean, these are guys who can pick up points. I know goals are important, but I'll let my forwards deal with that, and I'll let my defensemen go out there and just rack up points, right? Same thing with Dobson. If I can get 55, 60 points out of, Dahlin, Hughes, Fox, and Dobson, each one of them, then I think I'm okay. The goaltending is good. Logan Thompson's going to play. The Capitals are a good team. Blackwood's going to play as well. So you're just targeting a little bit of volume here. I also try to focus on taking one goalie from the East and one goalie from the West so they don't have to play each other too often. Jet Greaves, I'm just hoping he'll get enough of the net. And then it's just good bargains, right? You're looking at guys like Valerie Nichushkin. Can he continue to get, top power play minutes? Yes. Geekie, the same thing, top power play minutes. Yes. We'll see what happens with Cole Perfetti. I really hope Winnipeg now gives him the opportunity that he needs. Same thing with Lafreniere. I'm trying to target guys who are going to be in good spots, top power play unit opportunities, and then the same thing for Demidov. I mean, the skill is there, and during the regular season, like it was unfortunate that much out to play the Capitals. The Capitals they were stacked. They were a really good team, and they demonstrated that. But Demidov's going to get the opportunity to pick on some not good teams like the Senators, like the Sabres. He's going to get to pick on Anaheim, San Jose, Chicago. He's going to get to pick on some low-level teams that are not going to be good defensively. And the skill is just off the charts for this kid. So that's probably the player I'm going to be targeting in a lot of late-round drafts. If I'm looking for maximum upside, I'm taking a young player on a team that's just going to go out there. The same thing for, San Jose. You had mentioned it with Misa. I want guys that are going to get an ample amount of opportunities to go out there and just play a bunch.
And yeah, listen, Quentin Byfield expected to take, he played very well last year. He's still got room to go higher than that. And like you said, Mikhail Granlund, as a late round pick, Nazar talks, fits the description of, young guys that could boom this year. Granlund's going to play a ton of minutes there. So yeah, very strong first start for you in the first mock of the summer. I go towards the end of the draft on the snake, pick 11, get Kucherov. Listen, Nikita Kucherov sitting there at the 11th overall. I mean, I got to take that. And then William Nylander, I love the way things started there. I got two guys who can put the puck in the net, play on the top power play unit, get assists. Nylander could have even more this year as Marner's gone, and they're going to rely on him more. And yes, getting a defense is important. Defenseman is important, especially when you got to skate five of them. I'm fine with taking Bouchard in round 3 and at least getting Darcy Kemper locked up in round 4. He's going to be the guy the Kings rely on again. And then, Mark Scheifele, Nico Hischier getting, making sure that forward position's really taken care of, having 4 strong guys there that produce consistently. That's another thing that I look for is I can't stand peaks and valleys. I'd rather a guy produce consistently and not have that as high a ceiling than a guy who can really have a high ceiling. Like I'd rather just count on the consistency, and that's what I'm building on there. Maybe as a second defenseman, Thomas Harley. Don't love that. Adam Fox. If you don't take him, I grab him. But I'm fine with that. I'm fine with it. It's not the worst thing in the world. He's on a very good team. He's going to be on the top power play unit. I get Lane Hudson there. I want to share that Montreal firepower. Make sure I have my defenseman locked up. And then as we go along, I think is a pretty good goalie too, and Jacob Markstrom. Maybe what I have to do there is go handcuff and take Jake Allen versus maybe wait a little later versus taking that pick on Swayman that we'll get to in a minute. Tomas Hertl, Robert Thomas, 2 guys who are fixtures in their team's top 6s, and we expect Vegas to be good this year. I like that Seth Jones pick now that he's in Florida for a full year. And then looking at Kopitar again, that consistency model matters there. Maybe Lafreniere, I take him if you don't take him there. And on the backswing, this is where maybe I make a mistake in taking Jeremy Swayman when I still had a Miro Heiskanen on the board, or a William Eklund. Which, listen, the plus minus ain't going to be there, but he plays a lot for the Sharks. He's trusted to play in all situations on that roster. Olmark, if I was going to go goalie, probably should have been the guy I take there. But hey, maybe Swayman has a really good season, and it's tremendous value on around 14. I'm grasping at straws there. Nonetheless, Swayman in the 14th round, whatever. Don't love the Donato pick there. That was kind of a panic pick. But there's nobody really else that went in that stretch that I'm like, maybe I should have taken them instead. So I don't, not a ton of buyer's remorse there. Love Devin Taves just because he skates on that Colorado top pairing and with, Carb where he goes. He's a nice guy as a last defenseman. And then it's just like you said, trying to get value in guys that play in top 6s or have a chance to take that step this year, like a Michelli or a McMichael. Arturi Lehkonen, shorthanded points matter in some leagues, and he's going to get you that. Luke Hughes, is a boom prospect. And then rounding out, again, the Claude Giroux, kind of a panic, the clock ran out on me. Maybe that's where I take Misa instead. Instead of Giroux. I don't mind Mark Stone there, again, being part of that Vegas. Maybe if Granlund is there, I take them. Another guy, that's a problem when you do a podcast with a guy for a while, is you start to think alike. And when they pick before you, that's that. So overall, I'm happy with my first draft. Michelli in round 19, that's an ADP that's not going to last. That's a guy that's going to start going higher and higher as you get more of those mocks in. Probably the same for McMichael, and definitely for a guy like Devin Taves. But hey, we take advantage of it while ESPN's rankings are all completely out of whack.
Take advantage of ESPN not. They did update. Alexander Georgiev did not get picked, I think. So making progress.
It's an improvement. Yes. I mean, and that's, hey, Yaroslav Askarov. Maybe that's a guy that was not taken, that he's going to get value. He's not going to get a lot of wins. So if wins are valued, but if it's just, you need a guy that's out there and going to play, goals against may not be great, but probably better than last year overall for San Jose, maybe. Save percentage, Askarov can have those nights. I could see him, pulling a couple of shutouts out of where that he has no business doing.
You play goalies like that in good matchups, right? Like if the matchup's there and it's worth it, maybe he's not a Tuesday, Thursday kind of Saturday, right? The bigger slates, but if in the division, he's going to have to play Calgary a bunch. He's going to have to play Vancouver a bunch. He's going to have to play Anaheim a bunch. Like there's going to be opportunities. You may not want to start him, in Vegas, in Edmonton kind of thing. The Kings were absolutely lethal on the road. So maybe, that's a reverse split there. But they were elite at home. So maybe not play him when you're in, LA and stuff like that. But when you're taking those third and fourth goalies, you're looking for, the matchup. And there's nothing wrong with looking at a matchup and saying, hey, I'm not going to start him. You don't have to start the goalie every time you have him. You can make an executive choice. Hindsight will always be 2020. So if he pops off, great. But fantasy is a long season, and trust the numbers.
Handcuffs matter with certain goalie tandems. If you're going to take Thatcher Demko, you need to take Kevin Lankinen. Me taking Markstrom, I probably should have, instead of taking Swayman there, just waited and take Jake Allen later on in the draft. So handcuffs can be important. I will say this: if you're forced into taking a backup, and it's a league where like goalies are at a premium, so you don't want to stream guys and matchups, take backups on good teams, because those guys are usually on a back-to-back are going to get the crappier team, so they have a better chance at putting up a good number. So that's something to consider too. If you're forced to taking a backup and it's not a handcuff situation, take those backups on the better teams. Maybe not, like a Winnipeg Connor Hellebuck situation, but a lot of other teams, that backup's going to play, and he's usually going to get, we'll say the starting goalie is going to play the tougher team 9 times out of 10 in a back-to-back. So you get those favorable matchups.
Or Freddie Anderson's backup could check off.
Freddie Anderson.
It's just, Freddie Anderson's falling apart at some point. Man's made of glass. So the question of if, the question of when.
I'd be last year's Ilya Sorokin and Varlamov, while Varlamov was healthy, was more of a traditional split. I wonder if Sorokin gets back to being more of like a lion's share in the crease kind of guy. I'm trying to look at other teams where like handcuffs matter.
Even if he does, though, like I don't expect the Islanders to be very good. He's going to go out there and he's going to be a situation where he's probably going to have good numbers, but terrible record.
We'll have to do an episode on goalie handcuff rankings, but another one I'm looking at too, just because he's not. And listen, I know he thrives on playing a lot, but Bobrovsky may not play as much this year. If the plan is for the Florida Panthers to be this dynasty that's going to win at least 2 more cups over the next 3 or 4 years, let's say. I understand Bobrovsky's only got so much time left, but I could see Tarasov not being a mandatory handcuff to Bobrovsky, but probably a smart one to have.
Good, like you said, backup goalies on good teams. Like the team in front of you makes a difference, right? Like that's an important part. And like you said, he's probably going to get the more favorable matchup. It might be the back-to-back, unfortunately, and sometimes those don't go well. But again, take your shot. See what see if the matchup makes sense. If it does, roll it. And listen, you don't have to, just because they're handcuffed doesn't mean they have to be tied to you. Like you can look for value somewhere else, right? When it makes more sense. So like don't get attached to these players. They don't know you. They most certainly don't love you. Just, if it doesn't make sense, let them go. Go out, find somebody new. It doesn't matter where you picked them. Once your draft is over, it does not matter where you picked him. That is a you problem, not a me problem afterwards. So don't get attached to players because you took him at this place. Just, make good choices.
Yeah, exactly. Like to me, once you get past round 13 or 14, then it's like, okay, fine. Like somebody's got to go. They got to go. And again, like you're saying, it doesn't matter what round. I think up to a point, there's common sense. Like, okay, like if Nikita Kucherov gets off to a bad start, he ain't going anywhere. Maybe he's not playing on a night where I got to bench a couple of guys. If he's in a cold snap, then maybe I'm going to bench him. It's crazy to say, but that's something you might consider too before dropping. Listen, it looks like we're getting a hat off the display here. Let's see what's coming down here before we wrap things up on Total Hockey Now. Let's see.
Like in case you guys are, I mean, listen, segue here. Big shout out to the FSGA, the Fantasy Sports Gaming Association. They sent me my my championship ring for the American League. Look at that bad boy. This thing is heavy AF.
That means you're coming. It means you are bumping up to the top division this year.
I am. Big thank you to Turnbull and everybody at the FSGH, Yahoo, and everything. This thing is mad. Like, look at it. It is huge.
Get that closer to the camera, my man. I got to get myself one of those. I'm trying. I'm dying. I have playoff teams, but they never win in that league. I've been in that league 2-3 years.
That's it. Now I feel like I've been called up from the AHL, and now I'm about to get there and find out what real work is.
There's definitely some guys in that league that are just on it, and they're in the top of the standings pretty much from wire to wire for a reason. So
I'm just hoping I don't get relegated.
and that's the thing too. Just stay in the league. Just don't finish last place.
Don't finish last. There's no, you know what I mean? There's no worry about next year. Just don't finish last. That's
exactly.
We're gonna have to dig even deeper. But yeah, it's big thank you to the FSGH for sending me this absolute bad boy. I was a little confused why UPS was at my door. I was like, what is this magic?
Signature required?
No signature required. But it did say fragile, and I was like, I didn't order anything that's fragile, right? So
there's always that moment where you get a random package that you're not expecting in a situation like that. We're like, what the hell is this thing? Did I order something at like 11:30 at night as I was falling asleep and not remember? Like that does happen.
That was my first thought. I was like, what did I order that I shouldn't have? But yes, big thank you to Digger Turnbull and everybody there for sending me that cool stuff.
Digger Turnbull does a hell of a job running those leagues, and I appreciate being a part of them. And that's one of the
Yahoo. Big thank you to Yahoo, of course.
Yes, and Yahoo, of course, for actually running competent. Listen, it's funny how we shit talk ESPN fantasy, but it's like that's all we got for the next few weeks. So can't talk them too much. But there we go. Now coming up, don't forget Ed Rivera 86 not here today. Plenty going on with the Mets as the trade deadline, the draft, and the All-Star break approaching over there at Subway Touche. In real life, that would be the 7 Train Slapshot podcast. What's coming up this week?
Last one for the season. So we're gonna grade the teams and how they have done so far after the draft, after free agency. We're gonna talk about some teams and how they did, which ones impressed us, which ones didn't. Some familiar names will be there, of course. But yeah, and then we're gonna hit the official off season there, but I'll still be here. So
Total Hockey Now, not going anywhere at Total Hockey Now. You could also reach out to us at totalhockeynow@gmail.com. I will be taking Thursday the 24th off, but we will be here throughout the summer doing mock drafts every week, talking board odds, division odds, conference odds, whatever the flavor of the week is. Now, another podcast that will be going on hiatus until later on in the summer. We're going into the offseason. Will be Rip and Riff, which will have our finales for the summer tomorrow. We'll be doing some Upper Deck hockey extended series. Got a little baseball. And we're going to play a little game called Will I Pull Somebody Still Alive at Wimbledon with these random tennis packs I have. So see how that goes. But that at Rip and Riff, a new episode of that will come out tomorrow. It's been a fun one today. The first, I mean, it doesn't feel as good without Ant, but it was nice to get the first mock draft in after teasing last week, getting screwed by the update.
It was nice. You should probably check on Ant to do the Mets mock first game. The bullpen blew it, so down bad.
All right, well, that's not good, and that's the front end of a doubleheader. That's the reason he couldn't be here today. So hopefully he'll be all right for round 2. Like we said, at Subway to Shea, if you need to vent about the New York Metropolitans. But for at Fuzzy Chris 91, I am at Pucking Thoughts Adam Bernard. Back with you with an all new episode of Total Hockey Now and Mockey Draft number 2 of the season next Thursday. THN.